Okay, good morning everyone, and Hazak Baruch. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Wednesday morning. Ta'anit Ester, as we are getting ready for the holiday of Purim. Here we go, everybody. I'd like to share with you a beautiful, powerful thought from Rabbi Bernstein on our holiday. Today's class is sponsored anonymously for the Refuah Shelema of all of Am Yisrael. Today's class is also sponsored by Jeffrey Zanatti in honor of the holiday of Purim and myself, Hazak Baruch. Rabotai, we know there's a concept in Judaism, Ma'aseh Avot Siman Labanim. What that means is that anything that happens to us as a nation has to have happened somewhere to our forefathers first. Ma'aseh Avot Siman Labanim. Something that happened to the forefathers is a sign, it's an omen that it's going to happen to the Banim, to the children. We find many examples of this, and the rabbis wonder, where is the Ma'aseh Avot of the story of Purim? Where did that happen to our forefathers? In a microcosm that we can now say that it should happen to us as a nation. The Gemara, Masechet Megillah, is a very interesting source of where it happened first to our forefathers. The Gemara says it goes back to the story where the brothers come to get food from Egypt because there's a famine. Yosef, their brother, is the viceroy. He's in charge of the food, but they don't know that it's him yet. And he sits them down. He makes believe he's a stranger, and he gives each one a piece of clothing. But the pasuk says, Binyamin, to his brother Benjamin, he gives 5. He gives 4 extra pieces of clothing. And the Gemara says, are you out of your mind? You're giving Binyamin more clothing. Did you not learn your lesson, Yosef? Don't you know, why'd you make it into this mess of Egypt? Why were you sold by your brothers? Because they were jealous of your extra robe. And if one robe could cause them to sell you, you're giving Binyamin 4? 4 extra? You want him to sell him now? What are you doing? And the Gemara answers, there's many answers to this question. The Gemara says, Remez Ramazlo, he was hinting to Benjamin, his brother, that one day he's going to have a great-great-great-great-grandson who is going to also walk out of the king's palace with 5 pieces of clothing. So he gives Binyamin 5, Remez, hinting that he's going to have a great-grandson who's going to leave the king's palace also with 5 pieces of clothing. Who is Binyamin's great-great-great-grandson who's going to leave the palace with 5 extra pieces of clothing? You all guessed it. It is Mordechai. Mordechai was from Benjamin. Like the pasuk says, Ish Yehudi haya b'Shushan habira ushmo Mordechai ben Yair ben Shimei ben Kish ish Yemini. So Mordechai is from Yemini. What does Yemini? It does not mean a righty. Okay, it means from Binyamin. So you see Mordechai is from Binyamin, and he leaves with 5 pieces of clothing, like the pasuk says, Mordechai yatsa milifnei hamelech. Mordechai leaves from the king's palace, bilvush malchut, with royal apparel, techelet, vahur, ateret zahav, gedolah, v'tachrich butz, v'argaman, v'ha'ir shushan, tzahala v'sameha. Mordechai leaves the king's palace with 5 pieces of clothing. So you see, Yosef gives Binyamin 5 to hint to Mordechai who's going to receive 5. Now this is the source, according to the Gemara, of Ma'aseh Avot Siman Labanim. We see here the story of Purim. Now I have to be honest. I hate being critical, but come on. Are you serious? Is this the best you can do? Is this really the best source for the story of Purim? You didn't even find me the main part of the story of Purim. It's such a stretch. You found me such a minor factor, an insignificant part of the story, that Mordechai leaves with 5 clothing, and then I found you somewhere else that has 5 clothing. But that's not the story of Purim. If I asked you to summarize the story, what would you say? Vashti gets killed. Then Queen Esther gets picked. And Haman gets jealous. And then Mordechai hangs him. That's the story. Find me where that happened. Something important like that. Where did that happen? 2,000 years before, to the Avot. That's a nice precedent. But instead you found me such a small, irrelevant part of the story. Hazaku Baruch. It's like saying, the story of Purim has someone drinking, and look, I found you Abraham drink. So you see, they're connected. Come on. It's a stretch. It's not. You're right. They both drink. But everyone drinks. Why are we picking this point of the Megillah, 5 clothing, as if this is such an important part of the story, and if I could find where this happened prior, then it's a true precedent. What's interesting though, is that this is one of the 4 verses that we read out loud. So we see that even according to our tradition, there is something important about this pasuk, that he walks out with 5 pieces of clothing. The question is what? Why is that important? So today, my friends, I would like to speak about clothing. I would like to talk about begadim. Clothing is a very interesting thing. Actually, where's the first time that we find clothing in the Torah? Where's the first place that we see the significance of a wardrobe? Anyone know? Always you have to go to the first. Where's the first time in the text that we see something about clothing? The answer, I believe, is when it comes to Rivka and her son Yaakov. Remember when Yitzchak was ready to give the blessings to Esav? He calls him, he says, listen, I need you to go get for me game. Go get for me some food so I can bless you. Now Rivka overhears this. Rivka says there's no way he's going to bless the wrong guy. Esav's the wrong guy. We got to bless the right guy. We got to send in Yaakov. So she calls Yaakov. She said, listen, Yaakov, go get for me some food so I can prepare it for your dad quickly before Esav comes back. He goes out to the field. He gets the food. He comes back. She prepares the food. And right before he goes in, she says, the pasuk says, Vatikach Rivka et bigdei Esav bena hachamudot. She takes Esav's clothing and she puts it on Yaakov. And then she says, now go in. It's as if something important about these clothing, that Yaakov wasn't able to go serve his father without them. Very interesting. Now, let's not forget, Yitzchak is blind. He ain't going to see the clothing. What exactly is Rivka trying to show? What message is she giving by taking Esav's clothing and putting them on Yaakov? What were these clothings of Esav? Was it a tuxedo? What kind? The pasuk doesn't say. It just says her son's clothing that were very chamud, very nice. But the Midrash fills us in. The Midrash says this was a very special robe that Esav had. This is actually a robe that goes back to Adam HaRishon. According to our tradition, Adam had a special robe that he wore. This robe had a certain natural effect that it was able to draw, like a magnet, all the animals to the one who wore it. This was a very special piece of clothing. And that's, by the way Adam was able to name all of the animals. How did Adam do that? How did he name all the animals? How did he find them? How did he get to all of them? The answer is he didn't find them. They found him. He put on the clothing and boom! Everybody came to Adam. Very interesting. And that's how also Noach was able to bring all the animals onto the ark. How did he bring all the animals to him? Says the Midrash. He inherited this robe, he put it on, and all the animals came to the ark. They came to him. And then eventually it was passed down to generation to generation. Nimrod got it, but then Esav killed him. And Esav now is the owner of this robe. And I feel like I'm reading Harry Potter here. You know, each one kills the other one with the magic wand, and then they become the heir to the elder's wand. Okay, fine. I don't know. Anyone Harry Potter fan? I don't know. I was a big Harry Potter fan growing up. Okay, anyways, this is maybe where she got it. She maybe read the Midrash. I don't know. Who knows? And then Esav becomes the owner of this robe. And this was the special robe that he kept in his mother's house. By the way, that explains also how Esav is such a good hunter. How is he always getting animals so quickly? This is how. Now you may ask, so Rabbi, why didn't he take it with him when he's going to hunt for his father? Great question. Now, it's not with him. It's not on him. It's in the house. Great question. The answer to that question is, Esav on purpose didn't want to take it because he knew this was a very special moment in his life, that he's going to be blessed from his father. And he knew that he had to earn the blessing. He had to work hard for it. He couldn't cheat, so to speak. He couldn't take a robe that was going to do the magic for him. He had to work and toil and risk his life if he wanted to deserve the blessing of his father. So on purpose, he left the robe at home. This is the robe that Rivka takes and she gives to her son Yaakov. What does clothing represent, Rabotai? Clothing represents honor, right? Person wears, on a simple level, it's a sign of respect, dignity. It covers my body. Person walks around without clothing, it's very embarrassing, right? We don't like to show our body. We have to cover it. We have to be modest. It's a sign of respect. But on a deeper level, it brings honor, status to the one wearing the clothing. So as an example, if I'm a judge, I wear a certain piece of clothing that gives me that status. If I'm a policeman, if I'm an officer, I wear a uniform that brings me kavod. When people see me in the street, they step aside. If I'm a king, I wear a royal clothing to show this is who I am. I am royalty. If I'm a businessman, I wear a very important suit and I show everybody, look, I'm an important man. I don't wear jeans. I don't wear just garbage clothing. I wear a suit. You walk around in a law firm. You walk around in Wall Street. Everybody there is dressed. At one time, there's a guy in the shul. Walks always. He comes in to pray. Beautiful. He comes to pray every day. But he always comes, when he comes in jeans, ripped jeans, t-shirt. One day I saw the guy, comes in a suit. It wasn't Shabbat. Comes in a suit. What's going on? He says, I have a very important meeting with a congressman today. So you see that when a person has an important meeting, unfortunately, he doesn't realize that he's meeting Hashem every day. And if a person really internalized that, that's a real meeting with God. I should wear a suit every day to shul, right? Okay, but the point is that he says, when I have an important meeting, I'm going to see a congressman, I have to wear a suit with me. So we dress in life according to our position, right? However, not always are the clothing in sync with the wearer. And what that means in one word is that sometimes there are fakers. Sometimes there are people that are not officers, but they wear uniform of an officer. Sometimes there's someone who's not royalty, but they wear royalty. Sometimes a person who's not a businessman, but he dresses like a businessman, right? They say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. Okay, there is a certain truth to that. But sometimes there are people who are fakers and they show you one thing, but they're very far from that. And they don't even plan on trying to build and become that one day. This is really what Esav represents. Esav was faker number one. Esav was a guy who would walk in and he would show you, chashub, show you I'm important, show you look at me, but inside he was very far from that. Even according to our rabbis, the pasuk says, Vayehav Yitzchak et Esav ki tzayid befiv. Yitzchak loved Esav because he had tzayid. What does that mean, tzayid? Simply it means he had game. That's very odd that Yitzchak, should love Esav because of food. Imagine this, Yitzchak HaTzadik, because he makes him a good shawarma, he's going to love him more. That's a reason to love your son, because of a shawarma sandwich. What does it mean? He loved Esav because of his game. It means he loved Esav because Esav hunted him with his mouth. Esav tricked his father. He would ask his father very delicate questions, very complicated. Rabbi, do I need to give ma'aser on salt? Dad, do I give, right? He would ask as if he's so mahmir, as if he's so strict. He was a faker. He was a charlatan. He was a sketch, right? He lied. But he would show one thing. He would wear on the outside clothing that he wasn't really ra'ui for on the inside. This was Esav. Esav, we know, by the way, is compared to a pig. Esav is compared to a pig. And we know that of all of the not kosher animals, the worst one is a pig. Now really, that's an interesting concept, that the pig is more not kosher than other animals. Either you're kosher or you're not. If you're a pig, you're not kosher. You're as not kosher as a camel. You're as not kosher as a cow that was slaughtered incorrectly. Both are equally taref. There's no bigger punishment for pig. But everyone understands pig we stay away from. Even people that eat meat, not kosher, but they pig. All right, I was in the store yesterday. I was trying to get a suit tailored, and I was speaking to the guy. All of a sudden, I realized he's Jewish guy, beautiful. He says, but I'm traditional. I don't really keep so much kosher. I keep kosher, to a certain amount. I said, okay, beautiful. He says, yeah, I don't eat pig. I don't eat pig. Very interesting. He eats other things. He doesn't eat pig. And it's interesting how that even made its way into our religion, that we don't eat pig. Again, it's as not kosher as anything else. But the truth is, he's right. There is a certain tum'ah that a pig has. Why is a pig more not kosher than anything else? Even though halachically they're all equal. But there's a certain flaw in the pig at least conceptually, more than the other animals. Because a pig is the only animal in the entire animal kingdom. Thousands of animals. Pig's the only one. You ready for this? Pig's the only one that has split hooves, but doesn't chew its cud. We know that there are many laws about animals to be kosher. In order for an animal to be kosher, it has to have two simanim. An animal has to chew its cud, and an animal has to have split hooves. A pig has split hooves, but it doesn't chew its cud. And you know how a pig sits? A pig sits like this and says, "Look at me, I'm kosher. Shuf, take a look. I got the kosher feet." And he shows you the outside, how he's so religious. And on the inside, he doesn't chew its cud. He's not kosher on the inside. This is the pig. That's why a pig is so dangerous. Again, not halachically, maybe it's as not kosher as other things, but there's a certain fakeness that the pig has. That's what Esav was. That's why Esav is compared to a pig, to a hazir. They're both equal in this regard. Rivka sees the truth about her son Esav. She knows these clothing that he's wearing of Adam Harishon, that were passed down, these very holy garments, they're a show, they're a charade. They don't belong to him. He's not acting up to par with them. He doesn't deserve to wear such clothing. So what does she do? She takes them and she gives them to Yaakov. Yaakov is someone who deserves to wear clothing like this. He is up to par with these type of clothing. Rabotai, on Purim, something very special happens. We spoke about this in the past. On Purim, God gives us a gift. You know, throughout the year, we don't always act like we should. We make mistakes. We do things. We act sometimes with immorality. We maybe don't talk the way we should. We don't pray the way we should. And if we look inside, unfortunately, we'll find sometimes things that are nasty. We'll find dirt, we'll find filth. And the truth hurts. We have to look. We have to introspect. That's what Yom Kippur is all about. Teshuvah. What is Teshuvah? We introspect and we find the filth that's inside. We have to get it out. We have to car wash. We have to clean it. Get rid of the Yetzer Hara. Get rid of the dirt. But on Purim, we spoke about in the past how we don't look inside. But on Purim, God does a gift for us and he actually looks inside. He looks even deeper than inside. What does that mean? That means that as opposed to the rest of the year where we look at what we do, but on Purim, God looks at who we are. And all the way inside, the deepest part of us, there's a tzelem Elokim, there's a spark of Kedusha, there's a spark of godliness that is so holy, that is so pure, that is so righteous. And that spark is Kadosh. That spark is amazing. That spark, that piece of us, the godliness in us. And on Purim, we're able to tap and we realize that we are noble. We are good. I guess you could say something very interesting. On Purim, any clothing that you wear is actually appropriate. Any external expression that you give, you're right. The answer is, am I a rabbi? Yes. You want to dress up as a Kohen Gadol? Am I a Kohen Gadol? Yes. You want to dress up, that's why we dress up, right? Because it's the one day a year that I can be anything I want. Because I realize that I'm so holy. I'm so powerful. And even though maybe throughout the year I'm not a policeman, I'm not honest, but on Purim I dress up like a policeman and I show that I respect and I do have integrity, and deep down I'm an honest person. Maybe I don't act like it. Maybe throughout the year I make mistakes. But on Purim, if I dress up like a policeman, I could say I'm not lying. It is the truth. If I want to dress up like a rabbi, I'm not lying. It is the truth. We could dress up because deep down we are all of those beautiful, amazing things. Unbelievable. So throughout the year we see the dirt inside, but on Purim, venahafochu, we look even deeper and we see the beauty that we have within. Interestingly, the only other time of the year that we go double inside of inside is Yom Kippur. The day that sounds like Yom Purim, Yom Kippurim, right? Yom Kippur, Purim. Because on both days, we're going inside of inside. Actually, they're two sides of a coin. On Yom Kippur, we eat on the 9th, and then we fast the next day. Today on Purim, we do the opposite. Purim, we fast today, and we eat the next day. right? Because they're both yin yang. They both complement each other. They both have this theme that we're going all the way inside and we're getting in touch and finding our true selves on Yom Kippur. That's what we're doing. We're coming to God and we're saying, God, don't judge me according to what I do. Please judge me according to what I really am. And I hope that throughout the year, I can live up to this image of myself. And I could be true to what I was meant to be. You know, there's a very big role that the sense of smell has on Purim. Anyone familiar with this one? Smell takes a big place in the holiday of Purim, where, first of all, the two main characters of the story, Hadas, Ester, and Mordechai, both of them, their names were smell. Esther's name, Hadas, the Pasuk says, what's Hadas? Hadas is myrtle. We say Hadasim, we take the Hadasim, they have a great smell. So Esther, smell. Mordechai, the Gemara says, Mordechai, mea Torah minayin. Where do we find a hint of Mordechai in the Torah? Answer, Morderor. We just read it a couple of weeks ago. Maradachia, it's a certain fragrance that was used in the Ketoret. And you see Mordechai's name also is a fragrance. Why is smell all of a sudden so front and center in the story of Purim? What does smell have to do with anything? There's something very deep over here. You ready? What is smell? Right? When do you smell something? A lot of times we see something, we're not sure. What is this? Is this good? Is it bad? Right? Your wife says, honey, could you see if this is spoiled? It's been in the fridge for 3 weeks. I'm not sure. Sometimes from the outside, some things give off a negative vibe. It has a bad reputation. On the outside, we're a little bit hesitant. So what do? We smell it. Right? If you want to know if food is still good, you smell it. Because smell could reveal the depth within something. It reveals something a little bit deeper. It could show the beauty that's within that cannot always be seen superficially. And that is really the message of Purim, that sometimes the Jews on the outside were not so righteous. There's not much to brag about. But then we realize that there's more that meets the eye. And how amazing that on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol doesn't just come into the Holy of Holies, but he comes in with Meloch Hofnav. He comes in with a handful of beautiful fragrance. Again, this idea of smell, to be able to smell, be able to give people a second chance. A lot of times, a first impression of someone is negative. A lot of times, someone does something that's negative. And at the outside, stay away, don't eat this food, it's not good. But maybe we could smell it. Maybe we could give them another chance. You know, when Yaakov came into his father for this food that we just started the class with today, and he hands his dad the meat, the Pasuk says, Vayarach et reyach begadav. He smells his clothing. Vayvarechehu. And then he blesses him. According to what we said today, it's beautiful. He smelled the clothing, and then he realized that it must be Esav, because it's Esav's smell. Esav had maybe, right? You smell your clothing, you know it's your son's clothing, right? Yitzchak smells it. He says, oh, this must be his clothing. But the Midrash says something a little bit different. The Midrash says he didn't just smell the clothing. Al tikri begadav. Don't read it. He smelled his begadim clothing. Ella, rather read it. He smelled bogdav. He smelled his rebels. He smelled the bogdim. He smelled the ones that are going to betray. And when he smelled that, he smelled the bogdim, the betrayers. And he blesses him. So interesting. Why would Yitzchak, who smelled betrayers, he smelled the negativity over here. He's smelling bad people. So why are you blessing them? Why vayvarechehu? Why are you giving them a blessing anyways? Why? The pasuk doesn't make sense now anymore. According to the original way, it makes a lot of sense. He smelled the evil. He smelled, the clothing, and then he blessed him. But now you're changing it. Now you're saying he smelled the betrayers of Israel. And he still blessed him. Why? Why are you blessing the bad people? Explains the Midrash. You know who he smelled? What's an example of a boged in the history of the Jewish people? Anyone know? What's an example of someone who betrayed? The Gemara says it's like Yosef Meshita. Anyone know the story of Yosef Meshita? I'll tell you about this guy. The Gemara tells us once upon a time, when the Romans were destroying the temple, the Romans came in, and after they destroyed, they were afraid to enter. They didn't want to go into the temple. So they sent a Jew, Yosef Meshita. They said, you go in and take anything you want. We'll let you keep it. They made him the guinea pig. Now just imagine how disgusting of a Jew do you have to be, that as the enemy is destroying the temple, they look at you and say, go in, and you're not a Kohen, you're not allowed to enter, and you go in, and you don't care for the sanctity of the temple, you don't care for the respect of the temple. How low must this guy Yosef be to be able to go in, Yosef Meshita? If it was me, I think any one of us, if they came and said, go in, we'll let you take anything you want, we would spit at their face and say, kill me instead. You crazy, out of your mind? I'm going to go in? No, sir. No way. What does Yosef Meshita do? No problem. He strolls right in. Let me make some money out of this. Your temple is burning. Make some money out of this. He goes in, he grabs the menorah. He starts walking out. They see the menorah. They say, whoa, this is way too nice. No, this is not for you. Give this to us, sir. Go back and take something else. What does Yosef Meshita say? It's enough that I angered my master once. I'm not doing it again. And they tell him, you better go in now or we're going to kill you. He says, you can kill me. I'm not going in again. And he was killed on the spot. And the Gemara says, this is who Yitzchak Avinu smelled. He smelled people like Yosef Meshita. People that could be so low, so far, that you're willing to go into the temple. That's the lowliness. That's the wickedness. That's the begidah. That's the betrayal that existed. And still, he was ready to sanctify his life a split second later, Fakadosh Baruch Hu. Because even Yosef had a spark, and he was able to tap into it at the end. This is something that is so beautiful. There is a story that I'd actually like to share with you. A story that we've quoted in the past around the time of the holiday of Yom Kippur. It's a very powerful story that Professor Yafa Eliach Alei Shalom brings in her book Hasidic Tales of the Holocaust. The story is titled Even the Empty Ones of Israel. Okay, and it's a story about how far a Jew may stray. However far a Jew may stray, the possibility of an awakening from within is always there. The episode is told over by Rabbi Yisrael Spira, the Bolshevik Rebbe, which took place in the Janowska concentration camp in the Holocaust. And I'll read to you from the story. The Jewish high holidays were approaching, and a number of religious prisoners felt that they needed to celebrate under these trying circumstances as best as they could. In Janowska, there was a Jewish capo by the name of Schneeweiss, one of those people one would stay away from if he valued his life. He was as sadistic as any Nazi toward his fellow Jews, but he was in charge and needed to be dealt with. The day before Yom Kippur, a few members approached the Rebbe and asked him to speak with this Jewish capo and request that they be excused from work on this holy day of Yom Kippur. The Rebbe was hesitant, as the request alone could bring about his death. But he was moved by the earnest desire of these prisoners and decided to go ahead and ask. Well, with a heart full of trepidation and a tearful prayer to heaven, Rabbi Yisrael approached the capo. Tonight is Kal Nidre. You are a Jew like me. There is a small group of Jews who want to observe and pray on this holy day. Can you help them? There was no response. The rabbi begged again, please. It's the only meaning that they have in their lives. To his great surprise, the Rebbe noticed a small tremor course through the capo's body. The guard finally replied, Rabbi, I cannot do anything tonight, as I had no jurisdiction over the night brigade. But during the day tomorrow, I will put you and your friends to work, cleaning the officers' quarters without polish or water, so that I will not be against halacha. I myself will supervise. True to his word, the next day, Rabbi Yisrael and the others were brought to the SS officers' quarters and put to work. Using only dry rags, they polished the floor and windows while they sang and chanted the Yom Kippur prayers with tears pouring forth. At about noon, 2 angels of death burst into the room with heaping trays of aromatic food and set them down before the starving inmates with a demand: eat and enjoy. Nobody moved. The lead Nazi commanded, "You must eat on this minute or you will die." Still, nobody moved. The Nazi's patience began wearing. He called in Schneeweiss and he demanded, "Schneeweiss, make them eat or you will be killed along with them." This same Campo stood up defiantly and said, "Today is Yom Kippur, a holy day for the Jews, and we may not eat." Incredulous at the insolence of this Jewish Capo, the Nazi asked him to repeat that statement, which he did proudly and defiantly. The German removed his revolver from its holster, pointed it at Schneeweiss's temple. Single shot rang out, and Schneeweiss fell dead. When the Rabbi would later recount the story, he would say, "It was only then on this Yom Kippur day in Janowska that I understood the depth of Chazal words. Even the empty ones amongst Israel, afilu rekanim shebach, meleim mitzvot karimon. Even the empty ones are filled with mitzvot like a pomegranate." Here is a man who was ratting out Jews, who was ready to hit Jews just not to have to suffer a fate similar to theirs. But at the end of the day, he was able to find that kedusha, that spark, the rimon that's within, that rimon that at first glance you don't see it from the outside. But when you smell deeper, when we give him a second chance, when we take a deeper look, every single person has that amazing holiness to them. Just to close, there's a beautiful halacha in Purim. I think it's our favorite halacha. It's a halacha that I don't think anyone argues with. The halacha says, Chayav inish lebesume bepuraya. One must drink on Purim. Okay? Anyone object? Right? We love drinking. Beautiful, right? This is our favorite mitzvah. You must drink on Purim till you no longer could differentiate between Haman and Mordechai. Now, what's very interesting is the choice of words. Hayav inish lebesume means one must get drunk, but we know in Hebrew to say drunk, the more appropriate word is lehishtaker. One must get drunk on Purim. Why are we using the word lebesume? It means, but why are we using that word? It says Rabbi Bernstein, beautiful. Maybe this is alluding to the word besume besamim. This is to hint to the goal of why we drink. The goal of drinking is to express the inner essence that every single one of us identify with through the scent of smell. Through lebesamim, lebesume, that is the goal of the drinking, to bring out the deepest part of us, to be able to dig lifnai velifnim today on this Yom Purim, on this very holy day of Yom Kippur, to find the real us. May the real us please stand up. And if we search, we'll find something beautiful. Maybe something that we don't really realize is there throughout the year. We should be zocheh to find it, to cherish it, and to be able to relate to it and build up to this level throughout the year. Amen. Wishing everyone an amazing, amazing holiday. Purim Sameach to all of us. Hashem should bless us all with the most beautiful blessings. May our tefillot all be answered. May we zocheh to find happiness in the simple things of life, to find happiness in our current predicament, in our current situation that we have today and every single day of the year. Amen. Chag Sameach, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Bye-bye.